Good evening, friends and fans. Welcome to this episode of the Comic Book Chronicles.
That intro needs more like a little golf clap.
Well, it's going somewhere, so follow me up on this one. With me tonight, as always. Wait, what? Oh, anyway. With me tonight, as always, we have one PCN_Dirt, aka Colonel Mustard.
I prefer ketchup, but you know, it's whatever.
Tonight he's in the observatory with the wrench.
Oh, no.
I'm in the snuggy blanket with the stuffed up nose. I don't know
Snuggie.
I don't know who that's gonna kill other than me, but
Dirt has to break out the Snuggie at the end of June.
oh my gosh.
Some
little
bad times.
Grubby germ monster at the resort where we took our kids got me some sort of random virus, and now I'm paying the price for taking my kids out.
Because you made it sound like you just got this, but you've been back a few days, right?
Yeah, a couple days ago, I just started to get like a little bit of a sore throat, but I thought I just, like I probably slept with my mouth open, no big deal, and then my nose started to drip a little bit, and it's like, it's probably just allergies or something, just sniffling a little bit, and then today it dropped a 1,000-pound weight on my head, and it has just kept going. As the days gone on, it's gotten worse and worse. So the one nice thing is I get to take the loopy cold medicine. It's almost better than whiskey in many ways, and so that is the one enjoyable thing. Well, I mean, we'll do some of Grandpa's cough medicine too as the night goes on, but it is what it is, and I'm here anyway, so you're welcome.
Indeed.
There you go.
And also with us tonight, with the candlestick in the dining room, is one Agent_70.
What's up, everybody?
I actually switched those two. I have totally different weapons.
What's that?
Yeah, that's all right. And unfortunately, not with us tonight because he's taking care of some business. We have one Tim Dog 98 who is, we're just going to say he's Mr. Body tonight because he's not here.
Record that sound.
Yeah.
What's that?
Record that sound. We're going to need that every week.
It's there. It's there.
Yes, he is taking a knife to some to his household belongings. So hopefully that will work out fine for him. But nevertheless, tonight we are here. We are doing comics, and we shall be starting off with Secret Empire #5. So if you gentlemen would go ahead and handle that, which I believe is you, Agent 70, because I don't think you were one of us.
No kidding.
I didn't read it.
Alrighty. Well, so in the latest chapter in Marvel's summer crossover event, we open with Black Widow seemingly being on the wrong end of a failed mission, but it turns out that everything is not as it seems, as it usually is with Black Widow. This issue does seem like a turning point. At least it is the halfway mark of the limited series now that we know that it's a 10-issue series. So as things are kind of looking down for our heroes, there's actually cause to have even more pessimism from the hero's perspective as we go through this issue. There is, I won't spoil it, there is a surprise return at the end of the issue, and it's a character that, when I say surprise, it usually means that we all thought the character was dead, and now the character is not quite dead. So,
Stilt Man.
Not dead yet.
Right, exactly. So,
Is it Stilt Man?
No, it's not Stiltman. But at the end of the day, that's where we end off. We still have the ongoing journey of let's call him Bearded Steve and his companions in the Neverland Forest. Exactly. We're not exactly sure where this is happening, but a surprise character appears and alleges that he's there to rescue Steve Rogers from this imaginary place. So that parallel story is continuing. Ultimately, we are at the halfway point of this summer crossover event, and right now things are looking very bleak for our heroes. There are still signs of weakness and cracks in or at least cracks in the plan, weaknesses in the plans of one commander or Supreme Commander Steve Rogers. There are signs of treachery within the ranks of Hydra. So there are multiple storylines to follow in this. Honestly, I'm sort of trudging my way through this to make sure we get to the end, and that's where it is. I don't have a lot of joy reading the crossover issues. I mentioned this last week where I just kind of stopped reading even the Captain America crossover issues because I'm just waiting for the ending of this event.
So I also hear there's a swerve. So there was a sort of a swerve.
Minor.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes because, like I said, we are roughly at the halfway point, and there's still plenty of time for a number of swerves to occur before we get to what's probably going to be the end game around issue 8.
And from what you've just said, it sounds like this is the Empire Strikes Back of this whole thing.
Yes.
Which that is way too much praise for this event, even though I'm not reading it.
Listen, at the end of the day, every middle chapter is the Empire Strikes Back of a 3-part series, So
yeah. So it sounds like there is much joy in Whoville.
Right. So ultimately, like I said, I didn't want to spoil the entire story, but this is definitely a down moment for the heroes in the book. And while there are signs of minor signs of hope, and in that Hydra may have some weaknesses that can be exploited in the future. Ultimately, it's still a down issue, and we still have another 5 issues to go.
And actually, I just remembered who the person you speak of that came back, and I was just talking in my yesterday. I was just talking about that person in my comic book shop yesterday.
Okay.
As I've told you guys, there seem to be people that they're just not, they're just not seeming to be bringing back, even though, because everybody comes back from comics except everybody doesn't,
right?
And I suspected that this person was going to be one of them, and turned out I was wrong. Seems like so weird, but then again, I guess with the legacy and generation stuff coming up, and I guess that would be giving away too much if I keep saying what I was about to say.
Or I mean, this could all end up being a Lost season 7 sideways universe.
Okay, I'll take that, even though I've never really watched.
Never seen Lost? Oh, come on, Roddy.
I watched like the first couple of episodes, and I was like, all right, I'll come back to this, and I never did. And the reason why I never did was because people were like, "Oh, Lost is so good," until it got not good. And
it's definitely one of those like Fringe, where if you're gonna watch it, look up the Wikipedia page or the IMDb, and watch the key episodes. Don't watch every single episode because they definitely treaded water for a while.
Right. And Friends is another one I actually do want to get to, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, if we're going to talk about comics where a character returns that was long thought forever gone, let's jump over to Infamous Iron Man #9, because we have another character who's reappeared in here that was supposedly gone.
I think I remember seeing stuff on this too, actually.
Yeah, well, at the end of the last issue, they revealed this character, so I'm going to go ahead and not spoil it, but I'll spoil it because it's from last issue. But Doom goes into like this trance where he's pulled into this magical realm, and there's Tony Stark as the Sorcerer Supreme at some point in the future.
And I believe this was also in the recent solicits too. So
yeah,
we knew.
So like it's a spoiler, non-spoiler, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this Tony Stark in the future. He's now the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's reaching back, and he's telling Doom that he has to stop being Iron Man, basically, and that kicks off this issue. I mean, that's like the first like 3 pages of this issue sets that up, and it again plays into the whole thing in Human Torch, the Fantastic Two, getting the band back together, which we know is leading up to something coming up in the next few months because they did reveal that.
Actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so again, you can see how all this stuff is coming together, how it's working towards a goal, and the new foil that's in the middle of all of it is Doom's mother. And she's been making appearances for the last few issues. So this is another one. I've complained many times that a lot of these issues, it feels like there's nothing, really happening. It's just a bunch of dialogue, and that's certainly a Bendis thing. But the last maybe 2 issues, it's felt like it finally has a direction where it's going, and the story is starting to make sense. And so it's been a lot more enjoyable recently. And even though I get this feeling like in by issue 15 the series will probably be over, be completely wrapped up and put into trades, and that'll be the end of it. I'm still enjoying it quite a bit right now. So I've gone from being hopeful to this series to being bored of this series to being excited by it again. So take that for what you will, but I enjoyed this issue.
But so yeah, that's kind of a turn, but that happens kind of in comics. So
yeah. Well, and the same thing happened with Action this week. Which, unless you got something else you want to get to first.
I was going to ask you how Superior Spider-Man specifically was like 30 issues. You think?
Yeah, I think
you have legs enough to do that. I mean, judging by what you just said, probably not. But
yeah, well, it's always one of those things. Like with Moon Knight, I felt like Moon Knight gave up on that story several times and was wrapping it up early and getting ready to move on to something else, and then it didn't. It kept throwing those curveballs in there. So, depending on the writer, you can always bring in some new twist and keep things going and keep it fresh. But I mean, it's Bendis, so I don't know how much. He's no Jeff Lemire. We've learned that. But I mean, Doom wearing this Iron Man suit is something that theoretically could go on for 10 years, as far as I'm concerned. He's always known for having these suits, and even if Tony Stark were to return and Doom were to turn back to being evil, he'd still be evil in an Iron Man suit, which is, I think, a very interesting prospect regardless. So they can do it for another 2 years. I'd be fine with that, but I just feel like it's not going to last that. Having the 2 different Iron Man books and knowing all the stuff they're doing with Legacy and Generations and whatever that's coming up with the Marvel books, I just feel like it's one of those titles that's not going to last very long, just because of everything else.
Yeah, I mean, given the initial premise of this, I was kind of halfway excited for it and halfway leery of it, because like I said, we already had Superior Spider-Man and that was great. But Doom and Iron Man is kind of compelling given the history between them two anyway. But it was something I haven't really picked up. And we talked before the show about whether I should actually consider doing this, and I think
I think another reason why I liked it was because it was such a strong continuation off of Secret Wars, just like Old Man Logan was. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I felt really like these two really felt like Secret Wars. Like these are the chapters that follow up that make sense. So many other books just kind of went back to what they were doing before, like it never really happened. It didn't really matter. where Old Man Logan and Infamous Iron Man are two books you could not have really gotten any other way except through, the events or events similar to what happened in Secret Wars. So I think that's probably why it was so much fun, because I enjoyed that miniseries so much.
Yeah.
And for these to continue off of that, they kept that momentum going. So,
Indeed. But that being the case, you want to go into action?
well, I can't. I was hoping Agent 70 would return because I think he read this. So I was going to see what he thought about it, but apparently he had to hit the head. So
okay. Well, then actually we can hold off on that for a second, and I'll get to a book then.
Okay.
Actually, wait, he didn't read Cable, did he? I can't remember.
No, he did not.
Well, let's talk about Cable real quick.
Okay.
Having, as I said before the show, just kind of glanced over this, even though I did read. Thankfully, this book is kind of a fairly easy read.
Yes, it is. It's very much action oriented, so you don't have to spend as much time going over the small details in the dialogue.
Which now that I say that out loud, I see something similar with Nick Fury, except for the fact that the art. I mean, the Nick Fury's art kind of makes it a little bit more busier than.
Yeah, that art forces you to pay a little more attention to small details in the background. But Cable, like one thing, when they announced all this stuff going on with the Inhumans and the X-Men and coming out of the Versus series and, the way they were playing with the lineups and the two teams and whatever, I was actually kind of excited for the idea that they were going to do new and different things with them. And I actually dropped X-Men Gold because it's gone right back to doing all the exact same stuff they had been doing before. There's really, to me, there's nothing new and fresh and interesting about that. Whereas this Cable series, this is just a completely bizarre, fun, doesn't take itself seriously. It's a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie of the Marvel Universe. And I think that's part of the reason why I like it so much, because it is so completely different from anything I would have expected from a Cable book or B, an X-Men book.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's basically just Cable going through town. We finally, through time, hunting down somebody whom we actually finally, I think we finally see, if that's who that person is.
I think that's who the person he's been chasing. I think we finally see him, but I have no idea who the dude is.
Exactly. Like we don't get a big sense of this is somebody we're supposed to know, or if it's somebody that just kind of create it and find out more about him.
I mean, it's just played up as a time travel series. He's just traveling through time to these different time periods and getting into fights and trying to figure out how to stop these great outlaws or warriors of these different time periods who have futuristic weapons. And it's just it's an insanely silly premise. Which I think is, like I said, it's one of the reasons why I like it, because it's so different. It doesn't feel like anything else that's really on the stands.
And yes, and that picture of Shredder on the cover, or what looks to be Shredder on the cover. I don't think he's not even. I don't think. There is that one guy that he leaves alive, but even then he wasn't dressed like that. So.
Yeah, no, he just fights some random samurai guys. Yeah. But like, I love how Cable is holding a Rob Liefeld gun. Like, that is so obviously the type of gun that Rob Liefeld would draw, with that, kind of flat, tall head on it that makes absolutely no sense. It's built like a super soaker with the trigger up front and the long body of the gun trailing off behind it. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous, but that's the joy of the book. When you're a time traveler, I get that you would understand a lot of different languages, but are you really going to know Chinese from the 11th century, which is different from Chinese from the 15th century, which is different from Chinese from the 17th century, which is different from modern Mandarin, which is different from modern mainland, which is different from modern Hong Kong. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like It doesn't. It's not as bad as that Fantastic Four series where they were traveling through time and everybody spoke English. And they would go to ancient Rome and there's guys speaking English. And they would go to the French countryside and there are guys speaking English. Like, it's not as bad as that series because that was just bad. This is like bad good, like a direct-to-video movie in the 90s.
Right. See, you say all that, and I while I kind of agree with that, but I assumed that it was Cable with that little computer thing that was with him, because doesn't he still have that?
Isn't he still telepathic?
I mean, he is he is telepathic.
I mean, I don't know enough about Cable. I know he's the futuristic son of, the Wasteland timeline who came back. But I mean, honestly, beyond that, all I know about him is that he's way overhyped and he's going to be in the new Deadpool.
Yeah, people love him from Cable or whatever, and he's.
I'm just waiting for Marvel to introduce Dish Network, who's going to be Cable's, biggest nemesis in the next decade.
Oh man!
Let's see if I can cut his mic.
It's the meds. I love it.
Okay, you know what? I'll allow it then. As a matter of fact, I totally forgot to do my hangout stuff here, but that's fine while I get that straight.
Now that's comedy.
Okay, that's loosely comedy, but sure, we'll allow it. We can go ahead and move right along from that and get to now that Agent 70 is back. Did you read what was it, Action?
Well, actually, Agent 70, you read Infamous Iron Man, right?
I did.
All right. Okay, so did you want to add something to that conversation?
Only that I'm reading this. I'm resuming reading this based upon your recommendations, because I'd kind of let it go. It was moving so slowly. It is Bendis after all. But it got to the point where I discovered that you were spot on in that this was the Fantastic Four comic that we've all been kind of waiting for.
The Fantastic Two.
Right, exactly. And seeing, there's definitely a twist in this involving a certain relation of Victor.
Oh, we spoiled that.
Oh, okay.
We already.
All right. Well, that being said, that's still, that's.
We spoiled his mom, and we spoiled that Tony Stark is the Sorcerer Supreme in the future.
Taking that awesome facial hair bros thing way too seriously.
Gotcha. All right. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I would add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying that I was so optimistic when it started, and then I got bored by it, and now I'm excited by it again.
Right. That's pretty much why I stopped reading it. So I'm glad that you stuck with it. You let me know that it was time to get back in.
Yeah. And I think Bendis was probably the other reason why I was kind of leery about the book. I mean, he's all right for some stuff, and I wish I could pin down what that is. But
well, do you read the other Iron Man book that he writes?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't read that one at all. So this is the only one I read.
I'm behind on that one, like 3.
Yeah, I mean, I am too actually.
So you read it, but you don't read it.
I'm reading it, but I'm just not up on it. But yes,
yeah, exactly. Like it's
if you're not up,
then it's just sitting there.
If you're not up on it, are you still down with it?
I am. I am. So. And unfortunately, I didn't get to last week's book because I just picked it up this week. Because I thought I picked it up last week, but it ended up was the wrong copy. So weird. So anyway, let us move on with and as I'm saying, he did not read Action. So Agent 70, you want to throw out a book though?
All right. Let's talk about this because I know it's not. And I'm very surprised by this that it's not PCN _Dirt's Click of the Week. Let's talk about Batman.
But that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna save it?
Yeah, but that's fine. Go for it.
No. Then I'll throw out something else real quick. That I think I honestly think PCN _Dirt should read because it evokes a lot of memories of a certain version of Spider-Man that I know he was fond of. I'm speaking of Amazing Spider-Man number 29. Okay. So, this issue
Is this a superior issue of Amazing Spider-Man?
Yes, every pun intended. So ultimately, it's a mild spoiler, but it's also on the cover. Recently, Otto Octavius, as a result of the events of the clone conspiracy, has found himself in a very, very healthy young person's body. And he has chosen to reassume his Dr. Octopus guise in a new costume that is very reminiscent of Spider-Man. He's also allied himself with the forces of Hydra. Now, as a part of this burgeoning secret empire, Octavius is basically looking to reclaim what he thinks was actually his work and his doing, which is Parker Industries, and that is the crux of this particular issue. It's Otto making an attempt to reclaim what he thinks is what he thinks was once rightfully his. And this is definitely Slott throwing all of Peter Parker's achievements and his really newfound wealth, throwing that all down the drain as quickly as he gained it. It's all going away slowly but surely. So I think that this is definitely up PCN_Dirt's alley, because I definitely wanted to punch Otto Octavius out while I was reading this.
Well, then I don't want to read that.
No, I remember, because I honestly remember that feeling when I was reading Superior Spider-Man.
Well, and to be honest, I think that's one of the reasons why I love Renew Your Vows so much, because Peter Parker in that one is just a regular guy. He's not a multimillionaire with a giant corporation, right. Whatever.
He's not like Spider or Tony Stark. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I like the fact that he was Spider Tony Stark, though, even though I haven't been reading it.
I mean, I understand. Listen, I am a fan of the evolution of these characters, and I still understand the illusion of change. So there's just a change that occurs in itsy bitsy teeny weeny increments. So I'm always looking for that, but at the same time I understand that none of this is permanent for these characters, and they end up having to be deconstructed on a regular basis. So
well, and I think
something should be, damn it.
Right.
I think it also depends on how well the change is dealt with.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, what led up to Superior Spider-Man was a very long storyline that had been going on in Amazing between Otto and Peter, which that built and built and built and built and built, and then finally you had this like crazy like WTF moment that led to the change, but it was something that was built on, as opposed to some of these other changes that they've made in the Marvel universe with characters, where it's like 1 month everything's fine, and then the next month, oh, they're dead and someone else has taken over, or they're gone, they're in another universe and we have this universe person here, or whatever, where it just happens almost at a snap of the fingers, everything changes. Which, I mean, granted, that happens in life sometimes, but it's when you have control of the story, I wish you would have a little more control of the story.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, but in any event, I think it's still an entertaining read. And
well, I'll tell you what. Since you read Infamous Iron Man based off my recommendation, I'll read this Saturday when I go into the store. I'll grab one off of the shelf and I'll read it.
Alrighty, cool. Aww. Hey, that's why we're a team of panelists, right? Share our opinions.
This is probably the one discussion show on the internet where we disagree about something and it doesn't end with like name calling and yelling.
I mean, the year's still young.
So. Yeah. All right.
All right. On that, we will go to. Oh, wait, did Tim say he was going to fill out his thing? He did not do it. So, okay. Nevertheless, I'm going to go on to one because I'm actually Actually, well, that can be rapid fire, but I'm going to go on one which I also think Dirt would like, and I'm kind of surprised if he hadn't read it yet. Star Trek: The Next Generation, Mirror Broken #2.
It's in my pile.
Okay.
It's in my pile. I just hadn't gotten to it yet. I actually, I like the free comic book day one, and so we actually under ordered the first issue in our store. So I just actually bought the copy on Comixology in order to pay money for it, and then this one the same way. Since I did the first one Comixology, I'll just do the whole series through Comixology. So I've got it in my
That's
to
pretty much
read.
what
I just haven't read it.
Yeah,
That cover has a very idealized image of both Captain Picard and
okay. So I'm just going to go say why that is kind of the case. So that is a cover that is pretty much says what happens in the book.
And they're in the war mirror universe, so everybody's buff and trim, because if you're too skinny or too out of shape, you're going to be murdered by someone else on the ship, so they'll take your place. So
which happens a lot.
I
I should say.
understand.
So without going too much further into that, it was like that cover pretty much gives away the big thing of the book, because as I had planned to say on a screen cap that I was going to put out, because I was going to put it out today, but I said maybe I should wait a couple of days to do that. This pretty much has the fight you didn't know you wanted between those two. And granted, while it doesn't last that long, it's still good to see, because this is something I would have loved to have seen actually on the show. Because as we have established previously, there was no TNG mirror universe. We're pretty certain of.
that is correct.
So being able to get that now and getting what seems to be a pretty decent version of it so far is something I would have loved to have seen on the screen. Because who would want to see gunned up Picard lifting weights and then taking down a dude, who's trying to kill him? Which, granted, that happens in the first couple of places, so that's not a big spoiler, and it kind of goes into, it has nothing to do with anything. Like I said, that's just things that happen in the world, so that's not spoiling anything that great. But I will also go ahead and say that, like I said, the big thing for me was, like I said, that what that cover suggests, and they are still going on with the plan that they have to get something done. If you haven't been reading it, so there's a plot going on. There's a couple actual plots going on, especially in this universe. But nevertheless, this is one that's going on, is going full steam, and that is still going on. And there was a big fight. Well, there was a big fight that happened, and I got giddy when I got to those pages immediately, because you weren't really sure how that was going to go when it happens, because you kind of saw what led up to it, even though it still works in the Star Trek sense, because if you've watched TNG specifically, or any other Star Trek, you get a lot of talking, and then some action, and then a resolution for it, and that pretty much happens in this one to pretty good effect. So I enjoyed it. It was almost a click for the week.
Cool.
But I would definitely say this was a runner-up, especially if you are a Star Trek fan and you enjoy, like Dirt and I both do, the mirror universe versions of said universe. So check it out.
All right.
But you don't have to take my word for it.
Exactly. So, anybody else want to throw out something before we get to the rapid fires?
Boy, what did I read again?
I could do all rapid fire at this point.
I mean, I can do mine as rapid also. But don't you want to talk about Batman Elmer Fudd?
Okay, sure. Let's go for it.
All right.
So, Batman Elmer Fudd special #1. I love the fuck out of this book.
And I honestly thought
like
PCN_Dirt would also.
I suspect I expected that he would, but apparently that may
All right.
not be the case.
So here's the thing with these crossovers. When they did the first set with the Hanna-Barbera crossovers,
Mhm.
I was excited because I like the cartoon characters.
Mhm.
They did Booster Gold and the Flintstones were the unfunny, unjoyful, lame Flintstones that are in the modern DC comics, not the cartoon characters, and I hated it. When they did this new round and like Space Ghost and Green Lantern, it brought the two characters together, and Space Ghost felt more like Space Ghost, but the story wasn't anything special. It didn't do anything for the two characters. It was just they both randomly meet in space and earn a thing, and then they go their separate ways. So it's no big deal, really. When they did this new round of Looney Tunes ones, they started with Bugs Bunny and the Legion of Superheroes. And when they did it, they did the Legion of Superheroes as the Legion of Superheroes, and they did Bugs Bunny as the animated Bugs Bunny. I mean, when they pull him through, he is Bugs Bunny who lives in a hole in the ground with a mailbox, who eats carrots and says, "What's up, Doc?"
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. There was another one that came out. I forget what the other one was.
Lobo Roadrunner.
No.
Wonder Woman, Tasmanian Devil.
No. Well, so anyway, there was another one that came out that week, and then this week we got Batman, Elmer Fudd. Well, I guess Lobo and Roadrunner and Wonder Woman and Taz were both last week.
Yes,
and the problem with those is that they, once again, instead of it being the comic book characters and the cartoon characters colliding, they made them real. They made real versions. Like Taz.
That's what I love about this, though.
Taz is a giant wolf man that lives in the Greek labyrinth, and she has to befriend him and lead him in. And I wanted the big tornado with arms and little swearing things coming out of it while he smashes through walls and eats everything.
They kind of do.
They kind of do, but not. But it's not. It's not that though. You know, they made it into feral Timberwolf. It's just
not
not
always the backups that they do that takes the Looney Tunes spins on it, but yeah.
But like when they did the one with Bugs Bunny, it was straight up Bugs Bunny. It wasn't like this intelligent rabbit. The Wile E. Coyote, Roadrunner, Lobo one. They were experimenting on these animals, and the animals became smart, and so Wile E. Coyote was this smart, evil animal. And it's like I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I want the straight up cartoon characters. And so when they did Legion of Superheroes, when they did the backup story, they did it as like a fun Saturday morning cartoon version of the Legion of Superheroes,
right?
With an even wackier version of Bugs Bunny.
Right, it's Scooby-Doo and Batman and Robin. I got
right. It. So when I look at these, like I open up Batman Elmer Fudd and I just see this bald guy with a speech impediment, and he wants to kill Thomas Wayne. I'm like, this isn't what I want though.
Right.
Like this is
Bruce
not.
Wayne, yeah, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, whatever. So I'm like, I'm disappointed that they fell back into these things. Like this is not what I wanted out of these books. So I bought the Lobo, Roadrunner, and Wonder Woman Taz last week, and I did not enjoy them at all. So I totally skipped the Batman Elmer Fudd this
Understood. Week. Yeah, because I think what you didn't like about those two from last week is definitely ramped up in this issue. In this version, in this particular crossover. But there is, I'm sure you probably flipped through to the end, there is a backup story that is much more akin to what you were expecting.
Right. And I mean, all of these ones kind of have been doing that. Like, I think this one has been the most Looney Tunes of the backup stories, but the rest of them have been. It's like the rest of them just kind of been flowing into like a dream sequence or something.
Gotcha.
Like I wanted a Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you've got a very real world Batman and a crazy cartoon Elmer Fudd, and and it's like he throws the batarang at Elmer Fudd, and it like bends his head in some weird direction, and he pops it out and throws it on the ground and runs away because he's cartoon and you can't hurt him.
So you did or did not read this?
I flipped through it. Like when it came, like I wanted to see if it was like Legion of Superheroes Bugs Bunny, or if it was more like the Wonder Woman Taz thing. And I saw it was more like Wonder Woman Taz, so I didn't read it.
Okay, so let's throw a little bit of context here. Well, so I will say that I kind of agree on the, even though I enjoyed the DC Hanna-Barbera stuff, but the way they just kind of put them together didn't do enough of either. Like I said, they just kind of put them together and just let them go. Like the team up was cool and all that, and I love Future Quest and all that was great and stuff. With these ones they are doing now with the DC Looney Tunes, they basically, as Dirk said, they pretty much integrated, at least in the main story, integrated the Looney Tunes characters some kind of way into the DC universe.
Right, like recreated them in a different reality.
Right.
They're still the same characters, just not exactly obeying the same laws of. Well, they now obey the same laws of physics.
Right. They are pretty much DC versions of themselves, basically, whether they be their actual characters or a human version of that character, as we will see in a lot of cases. So that being said, I kind of enjoyed that more than just them just throwing the two properties together and just having them going on an adventure. Like, we get pretty quote unquote realized versions of Looney Tunes characters.
Right. A lot of them, yeah, a lot of them are just Easter eggs that pop up, you know, right, in panels in passing. But you know, I definitely got a kick out of Tom King's reimagining of these characters, and basically creating versions of these characters in the Gotham underworld. And no, I was just gonna say, and you know, the story is essentially told from Elmer Fudd's point of view, so you just can't help but kind of read it in his voice and imagine it. You know, read the thought balloons and the and all the narration in his voice in your head. So, you know, every once in a while it's you know.
Right. And it's worth pointing out, which I think we have mentioned before, if not last week, then the week before when the reprint came out. But it's not like DC is new to this kind of stuff happening before, because they did a Superman Bugs Bunny story back in 2009, which they reprinted like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we talked about it because I remember talking about it on the show. And that was kind of, that may have been the first of that kind. And then they just did these specials. They're doing these specials for this month.
Well, the other one I really enjoyed from a couple weeks ago, I just looked through my box. It was Martian Manhunter and Marvin the Martian.
Right, I forgot about
because
that
Marvin the Martian shows up and he is a, 4 foot tall guy with a tiny body and a big black ball for a head, and all you see are his eyes, and he's got the giant war helmet on, and he wants to destroy Earth. And it was very much the cartoon character. They didn't make him to look like Martian Manhunter. They didn't make him, have the same powers. They didn't turn him into a more realistic version. He was very much the cartoon version of Marvin the Martian, in the DC universe. So that's why I enjoyed that one also.
Which is why it still surprised me as to why you weren't too crazy about this one, because they kind of do that to a lot of characters in this particular book, and in actually the next book. I guess we'll talk about it at the same time. I don't think anybody's read it, but like, you get pretty much a noir Batman stories told from Elmer Fudd's perspective, who's pretty much the Punisher.
Well, see, like, okay, you see here on this cover, like, that is the Elmer Fudd I wanted to see, but I wanted to see Batman from DC Rebirth standing next to him. Like, I wanted this Batman and that Elmer Fudd mixed together.
You kind of get a little bit of that in the backup.
Yeah,
but see, I want Elmer Fudd to be running down the streets of Gotham and people going, well, what the hell is that thing? Like, is that a person?
Right.
Tiny little guy with the big hat and the bald head and endless supply of shotgun shells. Doesn't make any sense, Elmer
Fudd and Batman go to blows, man. Come on.
Nah.
Okay.
Humbug.
That's all right.
All right, now we're gonna start yelling and throwing chairs. This is what happens.
No.
Now it's going to be Statler and Waldorf.
Boo, yeah.
All right.
So that being said,
We ready to go rapid fire, or
I think well, one more actually.
all right?
And I know Age 70, not Age 70, sorry, Dirt has read a little bit of this, and this was for me the big book of the week outside of what we just discussed,
Okay.
and that was Clue #1, based on the board game that had a movie that is still awesome to this very minute.
That may be the only board game to movie adaptation that has worked out.
That's probably true, actually.
Like not Battleship.
Not Battleship.
I still have yet to see that movie, which, at this point,
Yeah, well, don't. I mean, it's on TNT on Saturday afternoons every so often, and
which in a certain place that works out, but yeah. So what we get in Clue #1 is a modern spin, and I believe they are using most of the modern characters. Because I know they made some character changes in the board game in the past few years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they updated the game. I want to say 2 times. I'm not exactly sure.
That's probably true.
I'm no expert on board games, but
yeah.
I know they made some changes, and so when I look through the roster on the like the second page, whatever, that listed all the characters, I'm like, I don't know who all these people are, but I recognize enough of them that I understand what I'm looking at.
It seemed like what they did with this book was they used some of because I don't think all of these characters are in the board game. And I would like to believe that this is probably the only board game to movie/book adaptation that the movie is probably more popular than the actual board game. I don't know that for certain, but I'm gonna stand on that. But that being said, so what they did was, like I said, they took a modern take on the adaptation of the board game using quote unquote classic characters and some real world caricatures that none of which comes off as being very likable, but you will know these characters
because they all.
Well, no, not just because they're suspects, because they don't get into that until like halfway through.
Yeah, like Miss Scarlet is an Australian female rapper.
Exactly. And they have a big pharma guy who may be kind of a scum for raising up the prices.
Oh no, that's so.
And there's some lady who I think there's a senator, but then there's also a lobbyist.
Right.
There's a professor who's obviously like making the move on all his patients. There's like every one of them is someone that you're kind of going, well, if they're the killer, it's not going to bother me if they're dead,
Pretty much. And then there's also thrown into the mix these 2 detectives who find themselves, which if you've watched the movie, wasn't the case, but there's just 2 detectives that's trapped in the house with them. And of course you have the all-seeing, all ever-present butler, who is, I'm going to say so far, is decidedly not Wadsworth from the movie.
No, his name is Upton.
Yes, but I'm saying as far as his character is concerned.
Oh yeah, I don't think we're going to get the reveal that the butler is actually Mr. Body.
Right. And as a matter of fact, they go so far as to he is the narrator, but they go so far, especially as Dirt said before we started, they go through lengths to say that with the humor with him breaking the fourth wall, like just almost pretty much out the gate. So we see him like addressing the audience / camera in one, which I don't think you've gotten to yet. He actually addresses the editor of the book. Like that's how far they go. Almost, as much as I hate to say this, almost in a Deadpool type fashion.
Yeah, well, I noticed like when I flipped through it, I noticed on the last page he says something about, well, to be continued, and he looks right at you, and because that's how comic books work.
Right, exactly. Like there are a couple of allusions to that, like, hey, this is a comic book. So even right off the bat, so they're not really pulling in punches with saying, hey, you know what's going on, you know what's going on here, you know what this is, you know what's going to happen, but we're just kind of doing it slightly different.
Yeah, it keeps the humor of the movie, but does it in its own way, so it feels connected, but it doesn't feel like it's ripping it off or anything.
Exactly. To which I enjoyed. So I'm hoping this keeps that up in a good fashion.
All right.
It was close. Had I not read another book and enjoyed that way much more, this probably would have been my click of the week. I will say that much.
All right.
So I would say if you are fans of the movie, you might want to check this out, even though it has nothing really to do with the movie.
Yeah, well, and we don't know how it's going to end yet, and that's
Right.
that's part of the problem is. But I would say, I mean, I've seen the original movie at this point in my life, 35, 40 times.
Same.
It was something I used to watch like every Saturday afternoon for a while.
Like I said this morning, I watched it. I mean, like I said before we started, I watched it this morning.
Really?
I love that movie.
I have not watched
so
it.
Oh my
man.
gosh, that movie is so great.
movie. I was like, I can't say that everybody will like it, but I haven't met too many people that I've mentioned to mention that to and didn't like it.
Okay.
It's kind of one of those, like, I want to say underrated classics, but that's probably
it's a cult classic. I mean, it's definitely one of those movies that if they were to play it at a movie theater at midnight on Halloween or something like that, I would definitely go and check it out and bring a dozen people with me. Try to find people who haven't seen it to go see it because it is fantastic. And one of the things. I'll bring this up now. One of the things about the movie is the movie, when it originally came out to theaters, had 3 different endings.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 3 different ways all the clues could have played out on who the murderers were.
Right, and we talked about this earlier.
And so when you got the VHS cassette back in the day, now the DVD or Blu-ray, they put all 3 endings at the end of the movie. So now you can see how they all played out. Well, this comic... it has an extra page of clues at the end. There's an extra page of dialogue between a couple of the characters. And Clue, the comic, actually has 3 different covers, 3 different main covers. Then there's a couple retailer incentives. But you've got the regular cover, you've got the subscription cover A, and then the subscription cover B. And so depending, we think this is how it works, but depending on which cover you have a different page of additional clues and dialogue between characters on the final page.
Yeah, that seems to have checked out from what we found out.
Yeah, because I've got a different cover than you have, and my bonus clues are different from your bonus clues. And in our PDF review copy, it has all 3 pages at the end, so we didn't miss anything. So they're definitely following that trend that started in that movie of giving the different endings and doing the different endings in the comic with the extra clues. So I don't know if that's going to continue for all the issues or if that's just
what I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
but I definitely like that, and I'm wondering, with the way the movie was structured, all 3 endings that they showed work with what you saw on screen. Like each one of those endings was airtight, and I'm actually kind of giddy at the idea of when it's all said and done and the final issue comes out, if there's different pages in the end, I'm going to go back through and see, if you only read, cover A of number 1, but cover B of number 2, the newsstand cover of number 3, and you got the different clues, do they all still work together? Or
right, and how would your perception change for those clues if you've only seen one or the other?
So I'm like nerd excited for how the series is going to play out.
Agreed. So yeah, like I said, if I would say just go see. I don't like doing this that often because I don't think everybody will like everything, and nor should they. That being said, but go see Clue. Go watch Clue the movie. If you haven't seen Clue the movie, go watch it.
I'm like, is it on Netflix, Amazon? Looking around for it.
I looked and no. I mean, you can rent it from places, but I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix from time to time, but it's one of those they
But it's not
rotate in and
now.
out. It'll probably come back in once we get closer to Halloween and that
Gotcha.
era.
Alrighty. Is it rapid fire time, fellas?
It is rapid fire time. This is where those clues sound effects from the movie would have worked in handy if I had gotten out fast and actually pulled them. But they would have been a little long anyway. So, who wants to start with rapid fire?
Well, I've only got two. I can get them out of the way. First one is Action Comics 982. When I've talked about this the last couple of months, I've been talking about this Superman Revenge Squad team that's been coming together. And I felt like there was something missing. And this week, the issue kind of came full circle, getting to the confrontation, and I realized that the part of the story that's been missing from this particular story is basically what's been happening in all the Superman family books for the last several months. Because as the Superman Revenge Squad has been coming together, in all the other Superman books, we've seen Superman building relationships with all the other super family, I guess you could call them. So Superwoman, John Henry, Man of Steel, Supergirl, my brain just farted. But anyway, all these different super characters he's been working with and talking to and building up this group. And so finally here at the end of Action Comics, the Superman Revenge Squad goes for its final attack, so to speak, and Superman calls in his team, which is everybody that he's been building up to for the last several months. So the missing piece is basically the rest of all the other Superman books. And it's one of those things that, you know, I love when they grab those threads. You can tell that there's been some editorial work going on where someone's going, okay, now we got to work this into here, we got to work this into here, because it's going to play off in another book, you know, down the line with another writer. And I love when that stuff plays out. So it finally plays out in this one. And the big secret from the previous issue, I can go ahead and spoil because it was the last issue in 981, but Superman is currently blind. The attack from the Superman Revenge Squad in the when they were attacking the Suicide Squad's prison, trying to get Zod out, whatever weapons Amanda Waller had has made Superman temporarily blind.
Wow.
And so he's actually been using Lois to spot, you know, for him during battles so that he can find people, and, you know, he waits for them to make a sound and then he attacks. So they don't seem to have any idea that he has this problem, but he's been struggling with it. And so it's made it, you know, because you know, this battle comes, there's going to be all these villains, and you're like, yeah, whatever, it's Superman. Like, you know, he's just going to beat the crap out of them and move on. But now suddenly he can't see. That's a pretty big monkey wrench to throw, you know, in the middle of the battle. So I've enjoyed the fact that they brought it all together and they've made it work and tied it into all the other books. I love when that stuff happens. So I was pretty happy with this book this week.
Before you go to your next one, you mentioned Steel. Is he actually back in the universe?
Yeah, he's in Superwoman, because Lana Lang is the current Superwoman. And so Steel and Lana have had a relationship in the New 52.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Steel's daughter, whose name I can't remember, she's been the one working. Lana Lang's powers are unstable. So she's been working with Lana, trying to help her stabilize her powers. And then she and John Henry are boyfriend-girlfriend. So Man of Steel's been all up in the Superwoman comics.
Okay. Alrighty.
All right. So then the other book to talk about here is Flash 25. And this one is actually going to be my click of the week, because this is another one of those books. You know how I love bringing plot threads together, except this grabs plot threads from 1974 and 1979 and 1986 and 1992 and the New 52 and Flashpoint and like all of this stuff, and has woven it into the current Flash storyline. Flash remembers life before Flashpoint, so does Reverse Flash. And they remember what life was like before. They remember what the future was like before. They remember how everything played out before. And of course, one of the things is when Flash was framed for murder, Reverse Flash killed Flash's mom. There's been a lot of stuff that plays into the history, and it's all coming out here. And of course, new characters like the new Wally West of the New 52 universe. He's kind of an anomaly as far as Reverse Flash is concerned, because he's something new, and because he's something new, he's a toy that Reverse Flash wants to play with. So as much as Reverse Flash likes to toy with Flash, there's all these other characters that Flash has built relationships with that get pulled into the story as well. And so, like I said, all these different plot threads from different books, different eras, all being pulled together. And the fact that it goes back to the Button storyline that we just got through the Batman and Flash books, which was part of the Rebirth thing, which was part of the Flashpoint thing, which was part of the New 52 thing. All of that stuff playing together is woven into this book. So I love it. I love the storyline. I love getting all those little bits of references back to things, history of things being played with. And so this is my click of the week, and one of those books where I actually ordered the trade of the Button, so when it comes in, I'm going to sit down and read it and then continue reading these issues of Flash that continue on with it as part of that continuing storyline, because it just feels like a natural flow out of all that stuff. So if you're one of those people that bought like the Justice League Volume 1 when New 52 happened, and you bought the Rebirth special, and you're going to buy the Button trade when it comes out, because you want to follow that main storyline, Flash looks like it's one of those key storyline books that you're going to want, on your library shelf to follow the changes going on in the DC universe. So I love it. Click of the week. And that's all I read this week.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
I did read Flash number 25. The only reason why I would even have even the slightest dissenting opinion is that I'm not as familiar with the history of the Reverse Flash, and I didn't realize I actually still don't really know how much of a change, if any, there has been to that character's origin, because it sort of plays how I understood it to be. Maybe I'm sort of melding together the animated versions and some 90s Mark Waid Flash, and that was pretty
well. But that's the thing, is that Flash and Reverse Flash remember that history. They remember the old pre-Flashpoint, so that they're thinking back to what we think is Silver Age stories, Bronze Age stories. They're referring back to those stories.
Gotcha.
So they're not rewriting the history of Flash. They're going back to the history of Flash.
I see.
And so that's, like I said, that's part of the reason why I love it so much.
Gotcha. It's not necessarily it's more of a retelling as opposed to any sort of changes being made, right?
Right. It's more to bring people who are less familiar up to speed.
No pun intended.
Yes.
No, I meant that. Yeah.
Every pun intended. I got you.
There you
go.
All right.
This Reverse Flash is not Kid Flash's dad, because I have seen that being mentioned a few different times. This is
no, because Kid Flash's dad is a different character from the New 52.
Is a different Reverse Flash. Okay.
Right. So it may end up being one of those things where he's like a slice of Reverse Flash's personality that was when Dr. Manhattan, was playing with things, because part of the whole Dark Days, DC Metal, the Forge, the casting, all of that stuff going on is going back to the multiverse and the darker corners of the multiverse, and playing into the Flashpoint and playing into Dr. Manhattan toying with people and taking out certain parts of their personality to rebuild the universe to his liking, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure there's going to be some sort of connection there. But no, when you see this Reverse Flash, you think of him as the guy from Saturday morning cartoons and the old Justice League comics from the 80s and Flash comics from the 70s and 80s. It's that guy. It's not the New 52 version of him.
Gotcha. All right.
Gotcha. Cool. And I can't at least very well see the name of the arc, and not mention the Billy Crystal, Gregory Hines, great movie from the 80s.
Agent 70 hasn't seen that movie.
Have you not seen Running Scared?
What?
Have you not seen Running Scared?
I think I have.
Gregory Hines.
Yeah, I think I have. But the title of this arc is
Running Scared. Part one.
No, but the title of the story is The Police.
Well, when you look at the cover, look at the cover.
No, I know, but the title of the story.
I'm not worried about the story. What about the arc?
Oh, I know. But it's funny that I actually glazed over that, and when I saw the title of this particular issue story, part 1 of Running Scared, is Every Breath You Take, and I kind of, I snickered at that.
Fair. That's fair and right. Moving right along.
Yeah, it's like I missed one reference and caught another, right?
Yes.
And I would not at all be surprised if it turns out like that song was playing on the radio when Reverse Flash killed Flash's mom in some other timeline or something, and he's gonna make Flash watch it again, or something like that.
Goodness.
And I'll buy 2 copies of that issue just for you.
Oh, no. There are people in the audience listening to this right now, probably like, huh?
Yeah.
What are these old folks talking about? Anyway, moving right along.
All right.
You
want me to go next, or do you want?
Sure, go for it.
All right. So,
well, actually, no. You want let me go because I just realized something.
Go ahead.
Let me go and do mine first because I got a few, and I'm going to need a second after that. So Star Wars Droids Unplugged #1. I didn't exactly read this, but I thumbed through it in the store, and as it was pretty much confirmed, if you've read any of the backup stories, the Chris Eliopoulos backup stories that have been in the various Star Wars books in the last year or so, and I think in this book there's like 3 of them. This is pretty much that. So there are cute little backup stories that involve the droids and shenanigans they get into with other folks or by themselves. So it's cute, and the art is nice. So I would argue this is very kid friendly.
Okay.
So if any of that seems appealing to you, and you haven't read any of those, I can't give you the specific issues that they've come out in, but and I noticed they don't say that up front, or at least when I looked at Comixology. So, but it is what it is. But that's cool. Jonah Hex, Yosemite Sam. I'm supposed to be writing this stuff down, but Jonah Hex, Yosemite Sam, special #1. This was all right. This was Jimmy Palmiotti, who I believe has written Jonah Hex before, but also writing Yosemite, pretty much what seemingly one or two note Yosemite Sam, but not this Yosemite Sam is a very broad character, I guess. But it's a story that you would kind of make sense. Yosemite Sam's a prospector. He comes across some gold. He needs some gold in a mine. He comes across Falcon Leghorn, who he saves.
I say.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of as Yosemite Sam would say, that kind of stuff. So it kind of plays that stuff out. But Sam needs protecting, so of course Jonah Hex is around, and he ends up doing just that. There's a lot of rooting, tooting, and shooting in a couple of spots here and there, and the backup is kind of plays off of that also, with Bugs Bunny kind of showing up. But it was all right. And, I mean, you got Falcon Leghorn as a circus freak, So it was kind of that kind of a thing.
All right,
and it was all right. Let's see. Teen Titans #9. Which I guess I could have. Speaking of flashes, so we already know, given Deathstroke, that Kid Flash is out, but he shows up in this book, being talking. Well, one talking to Raven. They have a little talk, and there's some feelings that get halfway expressed, but not fully. And we also see, and this also begins the arc of Jackson Hyde, aka Aqualad, who hasn't gotten his name yet, being exposed to the media and being found out, well, being found where he is by his mom, who's been looking for him, and his dad, who, if you know anything about the character, is Black Manta. They both find out where he is, and they go to find him. And there's a confrontation between a couple of those characters that I have mentioned, and Jackson finds out a little bit more about both of those, both his mom and his dad. And there's a confrontation at the end, which will be concluded in the next issue. Let's see. Ghostbusters 101, number 4. This book's all right. It is the IDW book. I mean, it's the IDW Ghostbuster team who meet the movie Ghostbusters, and this just continues their misadventures, because now they have actually met each other and they're working together to try to solve the problem of why they're both of the universes are have collided, so to speak. I think it's okay. Wait, is that a Breakfast Club?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh wait, I hear. I'm going.
Yeah,
to
unfortunately, it is.
That's actually kind of awesome, though. So for those watching the video, there is a variant cover of the Ghostbusters 101 with that's a Breakfast Club themed.
And I say unfortunately because it's like I want to buy it, but I don't want to buy it, but I want to buy it.
Oh, stop it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there are plenty of other people that think as you are about that. Let's see, what else is next? Oh, my last one, actually, we've already talked about that, is Black Panther number 15. Let's see. So we start this off with a battle between the some monsters that keep popping up, almost incursion-like. I have to stop doing that because that is totally wrong. But there are some beasts that keep showing up through these portals.
It's very ironic that you just went from Ghostbusters, which explores very similar, overall very similar themes, into this story arc in Black Panther, which is very much like he's a Ghostbuster.
Kinda. Although, yeah, they don't necessarily play these off as supernatural or, well, I guess they do bring up a magic quotient into this, but not necessarily supernatural in nature with these. But yeah, I guess so. So it's a battle between these creatures who keep coming every now and then, and Black Panther, Shuri, and the rest of the squads, along with actually the Midnight Angels, who has had a kind of tenuous relationship with T'Challa as of recent. But they're in the battle, and they close the door with some not fatal casualties, but casualties nonetheless.
Hence the supernatural. I'm like, what are you talking about? Basically. This is totally supernatural. They've got invaders from like these other dimensions that I guess had been repelled in the past by the spirits and the gods that previously guarded Wakanda. And and I guess at some point had demanded worship and reverence and tribute. But now that something has mysteriously happened to them, and now there are these mystical incursions coming from these spirits and mythical beings and whatnot. So they're busy trying to come up with a way to
permanently close the
exactly the door. I apologize for butting in on rapid fire. I actually read this.
Yeah. But yeah, and again, for me, there's not a hard limit, but there's a separation between supernatural stuff and like hard magic stuff. And I'm kind of putting this into more hard magic stuff, but I can see where the supernatural, I can see where they collide.
Tomatoes.
I get that. Yeah, basically.
All right.
But yeah, and then there's some really there's some feels going into the back end of this book because
they find a way to shoehorn in somebody.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have said shoehorn, but yeah, I guess it is. And I guess given the given the fate of the other books, and probably Coates wanting to use said character, I'm not. You know what? If regardless of whether it's shoehorned or not, I appreciate it and I love it. So I'm not even gonna knock it for the quote unquote shoehorning of it, because hey, I love these two characters being together, and they seem to have some long sought closure in their team and going into their ongoing team up. So that's cool. And that is it for me. I won't, like I said, if anybody wants to read that, they should, because it's actually good, especially in the end. If you like those characters, I would recommend reading it.
All right.
So that's it for me.
So just the last few for me, since we did cover another book that I had also read, Spider-Gwen number 21. I know that PCN_Dirt is sometimes not a fan of some of the Marvel alternate universes, and he's also not a fan of Robbie Rodriguez's art. But I'm a sucker for this series. I like the spunk that this character is written with, and I like seeing some of the really weird and alternate takes that Latour has taken with some of the characters that we know and love from the Marvel Universe Prime, no longer 616, but Universe Prime, and has transformed them in the Spider-Gwen universe. So it's, it's an entertaining read, and if you want something, that's definitely got a lot of drama in it, but still manages to give you a smile, give this a read. Totally Awesome Hulk number 20. I know that again, I read some of PCN_Dirt's notes on some of the other issues of the crossover. I happen to like the Totally Awesome Hulk issue so far. This issue really delves into what is not really a spoiler, because once you understand what this Weapon X group wants to do, they want to create a melding of the Hulk powers with which comes with a healing factor, with the ability to have an adamantium coated skeleton with built-in claws. That's what they're looking to build, and this is another step in that direction. This issue is definitely a step in that direction. Defenders number 2 was actually a pretty entertaining read. There's a lot of interweaving of some of the continuity that we've seen in the Netflix series, the various Netflix series, into the Marvel universe proper. The Marvel Prime universe. This was a pretty good follow-up to the first issue. Marquez's art is it Marquez on the art in this week? I think it is.
Yes, it is. Okay,
Marquez's art was pretty good. It is definitely a big draw for the series. Again, I think the one thing that Bendis does do in this that is kind of meta, and draws in a lot of interest, is that one of the characters that's prominent in the Luke Cage Netflix series appears in this story, but very different from his previous incarnation in the Marvel universe. So they actually mention it multiple times, trying to figure out how did this character get to be this way. He wasn't like this in a previous incarnation. And that's kind of like a running theme throughout this issue, and it made for a pretty entertaining kind of weird it seemed like the characters are thinking along the same way the readers were thinking, this isn't how I remember this guy, what's going on. And finally, the last book I read, which was a pleasant surprise in our review package, was the IDW Artist Edition for Walter Simonson's run on the Mighty Thor, highlighting the return of Beta Ray Bill storyline towards the latter half of his Thor run, and it's just beautiful stuff. I know that PCN_Dirt does not have the cover to this, so he can't put it into the live video, but ultimately this is something that I definitely recommend. If you are at a con, sometimes the IDW table will have these to flip through and you can see what's in it. I love these artist editions, and I'm looking forward to buying one, and so I can show it here on the show. And that's it for me.
Alrighty then. Well,
clicks of the week.
I guess the one thing to mention here is that Tim Dog 98 said that Defenders #2 was his click of the week,
which we're getting into now with clicks of the week. So
Clicks of the week.
Flash 25 is mine.
Nice.
As stated before, I think I've said it or I alluded to it. Batman Elmer Fudd special #1 is mine.
Wow. And I guess I'm going to go with the comic that made me want to punch out Dr. Octopus yet again, Amazing Spider-Man #29.
All right.
That works. All righty.
Well, let's get into some ads.
Let's get this ad read in.
Actually, I'm gonna just thanks for having me, guys, but I gotta take off.
Go for it.
I gotta get remedicated and get some sleep. I also have a dog staring at me like he's about to pee on the carpet. So,
Oh no.
So I'm gonna let you guys go, but I will see you next week.
Take care.
Right. Take care, Doc.
Well, we'll talk about next week because there is a certain movie coming out next week on Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Yes, and I was gonna.
We'll make sure we'll talk about it offline, and we'll
also talk about it before we end because obviously we got movie protocols and we will have movie protocols in effect. So, but we'll get to that in a minute.
So let me get this ad read out of the way. Let me tell you about Skull Candy. Skull Candy makes the best headphones, earbuds, and gaming headsets, all with lifetime warranties. Skull Candy produces many types of audio accessories, including headphones, sports earbuds, Xbox gaming headsets, PlayStation gaming headsets, DJ headphones, iPod, and MP3 headphones. And now, for the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles, Skull Candy offers free standard shipping on your order. To help keep our podcast free, order from Skull Candy by going to cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link. Click on the Skull Candy banner and then shop for high-quality audio accessories with free standard shipping. Skull Candy Audio through cspn.us. Do it today.
And like we do about this time, we get into the cinematic news. And actually, before we do that, and he probably saw it, but I don't know if he did, and I still wanted to mention it. Friend of the show, Matt Wang, said that isn't that Natasha Ironsteel's niece, which I should have asked earlier.
Right.
I'm going to assume that was probably the case because I don't remember still having a daughter but a niece.
Ah. But this is the new 52 after all.
Well, it's true, but I don't remember them introducing a daughter even then. And granted, I can't say that my DC knowledge is that great, but like I said, I know Natasha has definitely been set up as a character way before now. So
gotcha.
That sounds like it would be more right than not.
Alrighty, so let's see how
right along.
Get through items.
Oh, let me do this. Share this.
And I have very brief unboxings.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get to that after the news. No problem. Tom Holland wants Spider-Man and Ant-Man to team as Bug Bros.
Oh gosh, always with the bros.
I mean, it's a thing, and it's actually neat to know. Well, assuming he actually knows
the facial hair
about facial hair bros and science bros. I assume Steve would probably know about science bros more before facial hair bros, but regardless, that's actually
it's cool.
Funny. And I don't know if he actually says that as that because it doesn't necessarily. Oh yeah, actually it does because he is quoted to say, "I want to have like a Bug Bros session. It'd be really cool." I guess he was asked if anybody who would be putting any screen time with, which like I said, I don't think they've ever actually interacted with each other outside of the
Civil War. Yeah, they fought each other. That's about it. So
no. I mean, like in the comics.
Oh, I'm sure they have at some point.
Well, according to this article, it says Spider-Man was a guest teacher at Hank Pym's Avengers Academy, but he and Scott Lang. Although he and Scott Lang have teamed up plenty, they've never been the best of friends.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So a lot of these news items actually dropped within the last few days in the lead up to Spider-Man: Homecoming. It came out that Spidey apparently had a very brief cameo guest appearance in Iron Man 2, and it was revealed, mildest spoiler alert. It was revealed that Spidey was actually that little kid in the Iron Man helmet and gauntlet.
See, I think that's just something they said. Well, you know what? This was a thing, so
Of
let's
course.
just make it out to be that.
Exactly. It was a convenient.
Yes.
The true.
No, and I'm not saying that it doesn't work.
I'm kidding.
Right. No, well, I mean, I would argue that was you're probably right.
So,
because I don't think they originally, that was something that was originally even thought back then.
Right. Just convenient.
Yeah.
Next.
Totally. Spider-Man: Homecoming sequel will pick up minutes after the conclusion of Avengers 4, which is not Infinity War.
No, it's the one after.
Right. It is the one after that was used to be Infinity War Part 2 and is now just Infinity War until they give the name, which I'm assuming they already had. They just don't want to say anything because it's probably spoilery.
Right.
Yeah.
So, while it's been spoiled, it's a mild spoiler that Homecoming does not actually revisit Spidey's origin. We're going to revisit it again in the new animated series.
But that's only because of the animated series that is coming.
Right. Exactly.
So. And now, did you watch it?
No.
It's interesting.
Okay.
The art style kind of reminds me of, if you've seen the recent, no, I'm not saying that it actually is that, but it kind of reminiscent of the recent Voltron series on Netflix.
Okay.
And I don't know, but the voice of the Spidey sounds like it may be the same one that has been voicing Spidey in the last couple of iterations. But I can't say that for sure because I'm not like up on it, but it's kind of sound like it from. It would make sense if they did do that, but
okay.
Kevin
Feige. I was about to say. Oh no, wait, did I do the last one? You go.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I got this one. Kevin Feige confirms that Miles Morales exists somewhere in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which
he's out there.
Huh?
He's out there.
Yeah, I know, right? So I don't know.
It's neither here nor there at this point. So
yeah, pretty much. I'm like saying that.
Same thing. I was about to say same thing with the next story. It's exactly the same thing as the next story. So Marvel has allegedly discussed bringing Captain Britain into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. We'll see it. Get back to us when we actually get some kind of confirmation.
Pretty much. And if you're gonna do Captain Britain at this point, do Faiza Hussein, which I, because that way they would have,
from Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that way they won't have to worry about, because Captain Britain, Brian Braddock, kind of has a, I would say, silly history, personally. But
it has all the magic in there too. So it's they may streamline his origin somewhat, but when I saw that, it's just hard to fit that.
That's kind of like why, like, unless they plan on bringing back Excalibur, which they can't do.
They can't because they don't have the X characters.
Exactly.
So,
that's the only way I would care, unless they do Faiza Hussein. That would be the only other way that I would care about them bringing Captain Britain into the MCU.
Right.
Next,
I was about to combine these next two.
That is true. Yeah, Marvel teases Inhuman trailer debut with sneak peek, and we also get said trailer actually that was this morning.
Earlier today, I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it did not meet too well. But then again, it's social media, so there is that. But it did not meet too well on the social medias.
Right, because it has it suffers from having a kind of mid-level, level. Like, I don't know how best to put this. It looks like it's a mid-budget thing, whereas we're used to seeing like either high budget for the movies or a low budget for the TV shows, and this is just somewhere in the murky middle. And my favorite part of this was mild spoiler alert. My favorite part of this trailer was Lockjaw.
That was the part that I mean. You mean seeing him or just
seeing him, because we don't have a finished. We don't have a finished effect, and we don't see how he's going to interact with very many characters. So
that's where I had the problem, because that effect that they did have on it seems like, as I said on Twitter, it seemed like out of a 1980s music video. Like a wipe out of a just a basic transition package. Anyway, but yeah, outside of that, and there's people who've noted that there's probably there's a Game of Thrones character. There's maybe a little more than subtle Game of Thrones kind of vibe going on here. Exactly. So
yeah, I'm just not a fan of. Yeah, I understand that is probably a good idea for them to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of the fact that Black Bolt. I mean, I hope that he puts like some sort of headpiece on that has, maybe they'll make it a helmet like the way they do with Cap.
I mean, it'll be ceremonial, and he'll probably have it on in the beginning.
Yeah, with the tuning fork. You've got to have the tuning fork, man, because this guy just does not look very intimidating at all.
I mean, hell, even with even when Lockjaw came up, like they had like the tuning fork as like kind of like a tattoo on his head sort of situation, and I'm like, no, come on, you can't do Lockjaw like that. He's just sticking out.
Seriously.
But it is what it is. I mean, and it could work out. Like I said, the people have been poo-pooing left and right, which they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. turned out, I think, great. But then again, I thought it was good in the beginning. This, I less probably up on, but I think it could still very well turn out all right. So I'm willing to give it. I mean, it's only going to be 8 issues. How bad could it get? Wasn't really too crazy about Maximus either so far.
Yeah, he's got a bad haircut.
Quite mad enough. Yeah,
he's got a bad haircut. All right.
Yeah. So move right along.
Avengers Infinity War directors tease mysterious onset image. Da, da, da.
Which looks like an arc reactor to me. I mean, we don't really necessarily get a scale.
Right.
So it could be a Stargate or it could be an arc reactor, but we don't know. So, and going on with the next story, Iron Man dons new armor in Avengers Infinity War set, which actually this armor kind of there was another article that kind of showed an armor that looked like something from Iron Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that's not really new, but this issue, I mean, this
is newer looking, yeah.
So I still want Silver Centurion, but I know that's never going to happen.
They had a version of it in Iron Man.
I know, but
was it?
Well, I mean, even whenever they showed his suits, I think there was a version back there, and I don't know if it was one of the ones that fought in 3, but regardless, I would want him to rock that just for some time. But that's just me. Next one.
Is it my turn?
Sure.
Deadpool 2. Ryan Reynolds welcomes Hunt for the Wilder People star. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a kid.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, sure. Guess what? Deadpool's 2 is a thing. AMC's Preacher pays homage to Marvel Comics editor-in-chief, and we are talking about the current one, that being Axel Alonso. So it's pretty. If you watch the episode and you see that, like, even if you know much about Marvel Comics, you will be like, well, okay, that's clearly what that is.
Okay.
And I was going to scroll down and show it because it does show it in here, but if you're watching Preacher at all, which good on you, you'll probably see it when, like I said, I think that episode's out already. Anyway,
all right, in not so great. No, I was going to say this is not really news. Forget Vulture and Birdman. Michael Keaton confirms, "I am Batman." Come on, dude.
He is. He is the definitive Batman. Stop it. Cut it out.
Hey, boo!
Oh no, this will not stand.
Mercy. Anyway,
hey, look.
He did it on Colbert. He came out and said, who he really is, or did he?
But hey, you know what? Keaton's Batman is the best Batman, so whatever. I don't fight me. And by the way,
I go with Kevin Conroy. But anyway,
I mean, okay, Yeah, as far as but I take that differently. We're talking cinematically. Well, at least I was talking cinematically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Kevin Conroy, no contest. And actually, you know what? And I say that, and this got brought up on Twitter, I think today also, because somebody, I think it was actually Mel from CSPN was like, oh shit, Mark Hamill is the only Joker. This is just scientifically proven, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and I agree.
Yeah, that's the laugh that you hear if you think of the Joker. So
totally.
All right. Next, we got it.
More Batman news. The Batman, or Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves. Bat Reeves, get it? Confirms Ben Affleck will indeed star. I didn't know this was any contention on this. Yeah, but confirmation.
All right. Speaking of that movie, it may be noir driven. It may be a noir driven detective movie.
Which, I mean, sure. I mean, that would be a way
to go in a different direction, right?
Yeah, totally. Oh, that sounds like that could work. Wonder Woman passes 600 million global box office, breaks another huge record. And actually, this the next one is also tying into that because Wonder Woman to pass BVS, which I didn't think that would be anything that was of note.
Yeah,
becoming top DCU film domestically, which again seemed like a no-brainer, like a duh. You said you have actually seen it.
I have seen it. I'm still kind of I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing, and I'm trying to make arrangements to see it again, just to see if maybe seeing it with like other comic book people as opposed to like family members who aren't exactly up on comics, to see what their reactions are. So I'll see if I may have to get my get my own second opinion and see.
Right now, this is not saying, and this is not saying. Like some people want to believe that this movie is perfect. It is not.
It's not.
But it's a great movie, personally.
I think it's good. I think, and I think that it benefits from, listen, very quickly, it benefits from being a Wonder Woman movie that is the female superhero
of the DC universe. There is
of most universes. I mean, if you think of female superheroes, she is the first on the list. And for some people, it's a challenge because we are on the inside. We are familiar with a lot of all of the Marvel female heroes that have been introduced post like 1980. Sure. But she is the prime female superhero. So I think as long as they didn't completely screw it up, this was bound to at least be a force in the box office.
Sure. And they didn't completely. They didn't
actually
screw it up at all. So I don't think. I mean, yeah, there was probably a couple of marks here and there, and there's some.
Right, it's not perfect.
Touches that they kind of could have done a little bit better on and whatnot. But yeah, it was a good movie. Moving right along. I just saw the Muppet movie recently also, so that song is like in my head.
Okay.
Stephen Amell wants Arrow to borrow more from comics. Excuse me, switching words around. Sure, why not? I mean, Arrowverse has kind of been its own thing. I mean, you could argue that the Flash has already been doing that, so
he doesn't want to be left out,
which makes sense. I mean, why does that look like the Hall of Justice behind them?
Kinda. It does kinda.
What is going on Arrow that they're doing that, or did somebody like superimpose that? Because if the Hall of Justice showed up on anything in the Arrowverse and I missed out, I'm going to be upset. Anyway, there is that. Sure, Stephen Amell's talking again
on Gotham City Sirens. Jared Leto can't confirm or deny Joker role. Deny, go away.
Oh, did I miss that one, or did I skip that one? I certainly did. Okay.
All right. Well, I took it, so we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Again, that is
go away, Jared Leto.
Yeah, that's not the Joker I care that much about. But 5 episodes of Young Justice season 3 have been recorded. So while this is news, this is not news, but this is news still.
Okay.
So I mean, I would hope they were doing something considering all that the hubbub. But I am actually glad to know that they've been actively recording some stuff. which makes it more of a reality, and I'm fine with that. I love it because have you watched Young Justice?
Bits and pieces.
Oh, you should go back and watch it. I think it's on. Pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't watched the whole thing. I've watched bits and pieces.
I'd be curious to know what you think about it. I enjoyed both seasons. Like there were some spots here and there, but you know, I think they were pretty good. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, 30. Actually, the next one is just 30 DC animated superhero movies will be collected in this amazing.
So no, actually, this is kind of a big deal. Oh wait, what happened?
I don't know.
God damn it! I think I
wrong link.
Yeah, I got the wrong link.
Okay, don't worry about it.
But regardless, so we are getting it looks like we're going to get a big box set anthology with 30 of, and I didn't realize there were that many DC animated superhero movies. So
listen, they were churning those out, you know,
totally
one after another. So
I recently bought a couple actually that may or may not be completing my set. Like I haven't bought everything, but I bought a good clump of them, including the ones that comes with little figurines. But
well, it's funny that you'll see some of them now. They actually pop up on Netflix and HBO. Yes. So there are ways to catch up with a lot of these, but now they're being collected.
And that's why, right, exactly, and that's why I said I haven't, because like there's a couple of them I just like I just rent this. I don't take care of that much, but they've still been churning them out, and they've still been relatively good quality.
Okay.
Next up, Discovery Scoop. Jonathan Frakes joins as director of Star Trek Discovery. So cool, you know, Star Trek fam. Which this kind of doesn't really come as a surprise because I mean Frakes has directed not only some episodes of TNG but probably some of the other like Voyager and Enterprise. That would not be surprising. Maybe even TNG. Even DS9. I don't remember. But and even I think he even did one of the movies, so just shouldn't come as a surprise that he is back as a.
He'd be involved, right?
Yeah. So.
All right. Riverdale season 2 may introduce another Archie comics character. Who could it be? Is there in the story? Does it mention?
It says, yeah. So actress Lorelai Linkletter looks like is going to be coming to the show as Tony Topaz. Exactly. Apparently, this character.
Hold on. Okay.
Apparently, this is a fairly recent character as they debuted in Jughead Double Digest 176 back in 2012, according to the article.
All right.
She has pink and purple hair, and she's a bisexual black character who's. So I guess she must have come along with like Kevin Keller. That sounds about the time that Kevin Keller kind of came in.
Okay.
And Kevin Keller is already on the show.
Really?
Yes, pretty certain because if I remember from the 20 minutes that I saw of the first episode, that's who was palling around with Betty.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's a fan of the show that will correct any of that if there are any about that. So next story is Star Wars Forces of Destiny trailer reveals series premiere date. That premiere date is says the first of 8 animated shorts will be on the YouTube channel on July 3rd, and then on the Disney Channel proper on July 7th. So if you don't know about that, Forces of Destiny is a more family friendly and also women focused, women of the Star Wars universe focused miniseries that they're doing. Apparently Hera Syndulla is suspiciously absent from this trailer, but it's going to be a part of the show, and I like Hera, so she's cool. But yes, that's going to be a thing, and apparently it's going to be narrated by Lupita Nyong'o's character Maz Kanata. No word on whether she's actually being a voice on that, which I would very much appreciate also. And of course, there's going to be some action figures that are going to come along with said show.
All right. And last but not least, James Gunn has confirmed that there is no Howard the Duck film in the works.
Maybe not.
Not sure how to react to that. I will just leave it at that.
I mean, I was one of the few people that at the end of the first Guardians and saw Howard the Duck there was like, okay, let's do this. I like Howard the Duck back in the day. I mean, it wasn't a great movie, and it was along that era of Marvel movies where it was kind of phoned in. But at least that one would kind of took a chance. We would have never seen it if they didn't take a chance. So that and Blade.
All righty.
All right. So now we roll into the comic news section. Before we get into that, I want to bring up this is not necessarily news, but I thought I'd bring it up. Friend of the show, Classic Materia. I'm assuming that was him on the CSPN Twitter account. Kind of let us be aware of this
Medium post.
I was about to call it a hot take, and that would have been really, really mean.
No, because it's not a hot take. It's not a quick take at all.
It's not. Well, medium posts usually are not.
Yeah.
This is one dude.
Like I attribute hot takes to like a couple of paragraphs at most.
Yeah,
definitely in depth
history. But yeah, agreed. So so basically, this is about a fan going through his take on the Marvel and DC debate.
Right. And this is a fan who is roughly our vintage.
Right.
So he is looking at it from the perspective of someone who has grown up with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and seen the DC film universe kind of, go to a very low place, and seeing the Marvel universe, tap into these characters, and ultimately, even though there have been lots of rough patches for Marvel, as they've licensed out their characters to other studios, once Marvel got their footing with their own cinematic universe, they've been able to tap into these characters that, really spoke to many more young people, especially of our vintage, when they were growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. So it seems a bit extensive, and
I mean, I skimmed it. I definitely skimmed certain sections because I was familiar with some of the history he was trying to teach people about.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's a good.
Seems to be a pretty good read, yeah, from what I've skimmed of it. So I need to ask Tim, because he keeps saying, he said something about a newsletter, and I was thinking of doing a post on this stuff. But if you've seen the link to where the show that has the show notes link to it, go have at that. Hopefully one day we will have that in the actually post proper in some kind of way.
Our first story in comic news, there is a Jack Kirby fan campaign asking Google to honor the comic legend. I think this is more than warranted.
There has been a lot of Kirby talk recently. Well, I mean, given that I think wasn't his birthday recently or something.
I believe so.
So, which outside of that, and like I said, at Heroes Con, there was a few different Kirby related panels, including one mega panel. So there's been a lot of Kirby talk lately, which, you know what, he deservedly, he deserves all the praise he could get,
and more.
And well, yeah, exactly. So next up, I guess we kind of get into the toy section of this here program, as we want to do every now and then. Square Enix's Black Panther figure is T'Challa like you've never seen him before.
Sharp-edged. Sharp-edged. That's the way they do it.
Looking more like a newfangled cinematic transformer.
Kinda. Let's not go there.
I mean, hey, it is what it is.
Let's not go there.
I mean, it's not a bad. Like Square Enix, the Square Enix. That's fair. That's still fair.
The Square Enix isn't like there's that other company that does
off the beaten path recreations of stuff.
Right.
So, and some of their models have actually been. Wait, I'm sorry, Nightshade. I didn't see this, but you know what? That's gonna be for another time.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's interesting news. But yeah, like I said, it's a more striking than
you missed that one. I read that story about the Black Panther movie character.
Yeah. Well, I'll save it for next week.
All right. So the next story is.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, it's there on the video feed for a hot second.
Next.
Speaking of action figures, Mezco has revealed a Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man. Is it a figure or a statue?
It is, I believe, a figure. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is going to be
112 collective body with 30 points of
yeah.
articulation.
This is on the more expensive side.
Yes, which I saw a. It wasn't this figure. I saw a Miles Morales figure in my shop recently, and I was like, I kind of want that. But once I get this place shaped up, I'm going to have to put all the figures I have out one and get some other ones like this one.
You don't have to do all. Just be selective.
No. I want
I want to do. There's no room for all of them.
Well, I mean, if I have space, I'll do all of them because it's not like I have that many.
Okay.
Or as in relation to you, I should say.
Well, I don't have that many in relation to a lot of people that you see online, but
that's true.
Moving on.
You got a good bit.
Yeah.
So that way, that's it. I want to kind of get something, and that is not a bad figure if that's how it comes.
Is cool.
It actually looks like because if you don't look at like the hand, it looks like a cosplayer kind of.
Yeah, it does
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we pretty much already talked about this. Rebirth reveals new origin for the Reverse Flash. We talked about Flash 25, which is the spoiler for. What we did not talk about was because I don't think anybody read Detective.
Nope, we didn't talk about it.
But there was a presumably spoiler about Batman and Zatanna having a secret that could possibly bring back a character that we know is coming back.
Okay.
And speaking of other characters that's making a comeback, we've already talked about this to a point. Yes,
in Secret Empire.
In that Redacted makes a comeback in Secret Empire number 5, which again we did talk about. So that's weird. So you want to take the next one?
Yeah, Star Wars: The Force Awakens graphic novel launches, and it launches as part of IDW's Young Reader line.
I believe this one starts off Ray focused, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Force Awakens line. So yeah, it does start out with Ray. Okay.
So yeah. And I saw that, I saw this and I was like, well, wait a minute. Marvel already has the because I was thinking it was the adaptation of Force Awakens, but it is not.
No, this is the kids line. Yeah.
That's correct. So, and I was like, wait, why do they need to do that if this is that? And why didn't Marvel do that if that was the case? But it makes sense.
No, we had stories about this before that they moved it to IDW and they're because I guess they have more experience doing it.
Right. So not that. So in the Righty was right news section, because nobody's going to give me that prop. Marvel Legend revives classic but dormant title. We kind of alluded to this earlier in that Marvel 2-in-1 is coming back, folks, in kind of a way, because it features the Thing and Human Torch. If you remember last week, we talked about the tweet from Axel Alonso with the Thing in his hands and got a 2 on his belt buckle. That is pretty much what this was. So for those who don't know, Marvel 2-in-1 was the team up book with the Thing and Character of the Week. And I enjoyed that book. I really did. But I don't know whether this says that or not, but this says featuring Thing and the Human Torch. So I wonder if it's just going to be just them two in the book, or they're going to go back to that format, which I wouldn't have a problem with. I don't think.
Oh, we'll see. Going down the line.
Yeah,
they're going. At least from what it appears to be, it's going to be at least initially Thing and the Human Torch. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be like an arc, and then they'll switch off and have somebody else guest star.
Sure. And and some people were saying that this may or may not be the precursor to the Fantastic Four coming back, which
we don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't know when or if.
Or if, right.
So more legacy news.
All right. So Marvel's first legacy casualty, who's dying? Spoiler alert.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that this is like it's so obvious because it's right on the cover, and it's an homage to the cover of the graphic novel Death of Captain Marvel. And I'm not going to spoil it because you just have to be up on it to go to the solicits. But yeah, it was pretty sad.
Yeah, because I would hate to see this version of that character go.
Yep.
So this is why I have them preface buckets, a stupid thing like that.
All right. And I guess
anyway,
you know what? I will combine the next story.
Well, I was about to say, I will go so far as to say that this starts a little bit of a line of. So there were a lot of gifts that have come out over the week about legacy stuff, and this next story is also a part of that.
Right. So Marvel released literally 52. The titles of 52 new and returning titles. Come on, seriously. So they also released cover images of covers that they were homaging onto, and using as inspiration for these new covers, and creating animated GIFs that morphed from the original cover to the current cover and back. And while that was cool, it also does serve to highlight that they are publishing way too many books. Just a bit.
I mean, you know what?
Throw it at the wall, see what sticks.
Valid. Which, yeah, they've been doing that for quite a while, and unfortunately, some books that should be around. I personally, my heart is on that one, but should be around is not around, and yet there are versions of other books that probably don't necessarily need to be here around that are still around, or at the very least for the time being. Anyway. But I said Marvel 2-in-1 was in that. The Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur still kicking, so that's great. Miss Marvel still kicking, that's also great. Apparently, the one note in here, which I'm slightly bummed about if this is the case, unless they're going with the other dude, Falcon.
Yeah, the new one is dying. He's dead.
Oh, is he?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh.
I'm just saying, I'm being flippant because
I was about to say,
I'm totally being flippant about it, because if they are restoring Sam Wilson, if they're restoring Sam Wilson to the mantle, then they're gonna kill off this new guy.
Well, I don't want them to Well, I don't care. I shouldn't say that. The new Falcon is all right. I'm like, okay, sure. I don't want Sam to go back as Falcon. I would rather him stay Captain America, but I recognize that wasn't going to. I'm surprised.
Exactly. Same thing. I was going to say it's the same thing as Bucky, because ultimately Bucky went back to being the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing shades of that in Sam Wilson's book already. So.
Well, I mean, you know what's funny about that? And before we move on to the next thing, I really thought that they would try to integrate the new version, the movie version of Falcon into what he, into Sam Wilson's look, at least. And it took all the way until now.
Yeah.
From Winter Soldier and Civil War, the movies, it took until now for them to really make that visual change, and it took too long. I thought that they could have really exploited that character's newfound, not popularity, but spotlight, and really.
Yeah, but he was already Cap at the time, so if they
not for Winter Soldier. That's what I'm talking about. Not for Winter Soldier. During Civil War, I think he was.
No, I meant comic wise though.
No, but that's my point. Like in terms of moving to the visual.
Sure.
Like making it more not military, but just making it not the red and white feathery costume.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Once they had to once they had that kind of different look and a different feel for the character, they could have immediately tried to capitalize on it, and they failed to. And it's a problem.
Right.
Especially from Winter Soldier. Think about how long ago Winter Soldier was. They could have made a big push for Falcon since then, and they failed to.
I suppose that is true, but I don't know. I'm still down with Captain Wilson. So, but anyway,
I'm like,
yeah. Well,
he's run his course, because believe it or not, it has been like roughly, if not longer than Bucky Cap's run. Actually, it's been a couple of years. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, but it's also been mired in events, though.
That's the difference.
Yeah, so that's that.
Although, come to think of it, Bucky Cap got killed in an event. So what are you gonna do, right?
Wait, did he? When did it happen?
Don't you remember he got stabbed in Fear Itself?
I didn't read Fear Itself.
Yeah, he got waxed in Fear Itself.
So I still need to. Well, people are telling me that I shouldn't read Fear Itself, but
Yeah, but the point is, like, he actually only made it through part of that particular event.
Sure. Man, but he came back. Bill Foster still.
Well, they all do.
So
They all do. Bill Foster will come back at some point. Have no fear. It is comics.
But anyway, to cap off this story, so there's a couple of also.
That's the cynic in me, like speaking out from behind the curtain.
Bill Foster's never coming back. I'm sorry, because Marvel's fucked up. Anyway, I love you, Marvel. She-Hulk is also, I guess, gonna be coming back as She-Hulk because she's Hulk now, and Spirits of Vengeance is gonna return. So just kind of cool. Where's Misty Knight's book? That's all I got to say about that. Moving along, we talked about this Superman Assemble's first ever Superman Revenge Squad or his own squad, whatever. We already talked about this. Moving along. Astonishing X-Men leading to something, quote, something significant and new, unquote. So I guess anyway,
yes,
yeah, not really. Like, we know Astonishing is coming back, and I don't know, the X-Men are pretty much back in full force, given Blue and Gold, and I don't know what different this Astonishing is going to do, even though Charles Soule's writing this, correct? Yes.
It's only going to be, it's not going to be a long-lived. I'm just, forget the cynicism. I'm just, at this point, it's the pragmatist who's going to say this is not going to last that long.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, has Astonishing ever had a decent? Well, I guess Whedon's run lasted a.
But that was also a finite run that I think Whedon designed.
Right. Well,
and he also was subject to. I was also going to add it was subject to Cassidy's slow art. So.
Well, that's true. I can't remember how long Whedon's run was, but I think the book itself lasted longer than.
It was 2 volumes, but because of the art delays, it took a long time for it to come out.
So yeah. So yeah, they're trying to go back to the 90s and bring the mutants back. I mean, there was, well, anyway, that's a subject for another thing, because there were some couple of writers of an X-Men book that probably could have stepped up and done a more significant book than they started off on. But it is what it is. And I believe that ends our news for tonight.
Right. So we've been at this for a while tonight. I'm going to keep the toy corner of the Comic Chronicles very short tonight. Do you have something, Rod?
No, I don't.
Okay, just very, very quickly. I'm surprised you don't have something, because I'm about to show.
What I was going to mention earlier was I did not get up on that Black Factor picture, which I'm one that I think you're about to show.
Ha!
Yep.
I'm surprised, but you also have more access to local Walmarts.
Well, see, that's what I was going to do, and then I did not get around there. And then the next time I looked at that link that you gave, it was
sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sucks.
So, but I got the email, the notification on it. So whenever they come back in stock, then I will get it then, hopefully.
Cool.
Or I will definitely still go around to my
the local, because I think you might have better luck with that.
I kind of with the shop sometimes, actually.
So this did arrive in the mail. It is pretty cool. I have not had a chance to take it out of the box, but it does look cool. I'm glad to have a comic version of Black Panther.
Yes, and I am looking forward to trying to find that without prices being gouged at some point in the near future.
I also picked up this week. It came earlier than expected. It is the Amazon exclusive. Yeah, it's an exclusive. It's the spoiler alert, because it really hasn't been that long. It's a spoiler alert for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So people, if you're still with us and you haven't watched this movie yet, shame on you. But the exclusive vinyl pop figure that I have is the adolescent Groot. So he's medium size. He's not the baby Groot.
Right.
He's medium size, and that is actually something that if you haven't watched the movie yet, it's actually a mild spoiler.
Yeah, sure, that counts.
So that's that. Those are the two things in the Comic Book Chronicles Toy Corner, and let me move on to our default fast read. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, and lots of action figures. That's what we do on Amazon.com. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN payment that helps us keep the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN US. Do it today.
And with that, we come to the close of another fine Comic Book Chronicles. I would do something that I didn't do at the beginning of the
Plugs.
So what?
Plugs.
Yes, definitely with the plugs, which is fine because it was going to happen anyway. And with that, we plug one Agent_70 here with me, riding along with me as always. Agent_70 at Twitter and Instagram. Go check him out. Showing off his fine stash of figurines and whatnot. Hopefully we'll get him a site soon. We also have the early leaving PCN_Dirt at PCN_Dirt and Pop Culture Net on Twitter. Also, popculturenetwork.com is his site. Go check out his stuff and his myriad amounts of podcasts over there. Also, check out Graham Comics Reviews, where he does on Instagram, where he does comic reviews in his own inimitable style. We also have, they're not with us tonight, but should be back with us. Oh, well, we'll talk about this in a second.
We'll get this in a second, yeah.
Yeah. TimDog98 at Twitter. Also, CB Cron on Twitter. And also the KLIQ Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQ_NATION, all one word. And also thekliqnation.com, where you will find this and other musings from Tim and sometimes us about comics. And, well, I guess it's been mostly comics for a while, but, you know, he does movie stuff and whatnot also. And you can also find myself, the host of this here for tonight, Radicat at Radicat on Twitter, also at News Nerds Need on Twitter, also News Nerds Need on Reddit, Instagram. You can find me at CBCaps, or if you want to, Radicat. I don't really post that much over there anyway. So, and hopefully hopefully a site coming somewhere soon. You can find the podcast, however, on our, I won't say mother site, but the mothership, cspn.us, where you can find us and a bunch of other fine podcasts. I believe Good and Terrible just started back again.
Yeah, they just returned.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bad Advice Show just put out a couple of new shows too.
They also did. And those and many other fine shows that you will find over there on cspn.us. But you can also subscribe to this here podcast at pretty much anywhere podcasts are shown: iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud. We may be on some point Spotify, hopefully. Who knows? Also, though, support us. You can go to shop.cspn.us, where you find swag that will support us and other CSPN shows. Go check us out. Get a nice mug, a nice t-shirt for your lady or your man or whoever you want to, or anything else. Phone case. You know, help us out. Help us, help you, help us, and all that kind of goodness. And with that, before we get out, actually, so next week, Movie Protocol is probably going to be in effect because my Homecoming comes out. And are you going Thursday or?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you're going
actually
Thursday.
Just made arrangements, so I can confirm that Thursday evening I will not be available.
And I think I will be hitting the early show like I normally do. So, and hopefully my movie theater is open back up. If it's not, because I hate to kind of go to the other one I went to for Wonder Woman. And I'm guessing Tim's probably also going to be not around for that one. So we may have a show next week, or we may have an abbreviated show next week, or no show at all. Stay tuned to the Twitters.
Exactly.
We'll
Stay
let you know
tuned.
then.
Exactly. Stay tuned for announcements leading up to next Thursday, because we will try to figure out what scheduling, what next week's schedule is going to look like for the show.
And with that, thank you for coming to the Comic Book Chronicles. So if you excuse me, I'm going home and sleep with my wife.
Good night, everybody.